let's do this. So first things first, I am using the Lazy Noob Pack. The tile set that I'm using is called Phoebus. It's probably the easiest to get into. Alright, so when you run the game, this is what you're going to see. If you got the Lazy Noob Pack, basically you can just launch the Lazy Noob Pack GUI after you unzip it, and then you can run it either down here, Play Dwarf Fortress, or you can run it up here, Play Dwarf Fortress. Utilities are on this tab and everything. I'll set up a separate tutorial for this, but for now, let's just get started. Alright, so you've got to create a new world. That's the first thing you've got to do. Dwarf Fortress is going to procedurally generate an entire world, complete with heroes, places, historical events, artifacts. It's going to do all of that for you so that your world's got a backstory. You can dive into it in the Legends mode if you want, or you don't have to. It's just there. It's something that makes this game unique that not a lot of other games have. So you can make your world any size. You can set these things however you want. They're pretty self-explanatory, and when you look at them, number of beasts. I wonder what this does. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that if I turn this up, there's going to be more beasts in my game. Alright, mineral occurrence, same deal, I'm going to turn it up to frequent. Natural savagery, turn it up a little bit for a challenge. Number of beasts, I'll turn it up a little bit. Number of sites, distinct places that exist after world generation, I'm going to leave it medium for now. Civilizations medium. History, this doesn't really matter because you can stop the world generation process at any time. It's just that if you choose one of these, it's going to stop it at whatever the number it says here. So if I leave it on here, it's going to stop it at 250 years. If I turn it down to short, it'll stop at 125, etc. So I'm going to leave it on short for now, but I'll probably stop it before it runs the full 125 years. So, another thing with this game, if you're just getting into it, read the tooltips. There's a lot of information on the screen. Right here, you're probably thinking, what do I do? Well, why? Go. Easy. Press that. Here's your world. It's generating. Look at all those beautiful trees and mountains, verdant forests and terrifying wastelands. Here you can see how many years into the generation we are. We are year 65, 66, etc. I'm going to go ahead and stop. You can see right down here. Enter or escape to pause it. So here's a world. I could let it generate farther by pressing C for continue. I could abort altogether, go back to the menu with A, but I want to use the world as it currently exists, so I'm going to do that. And here I'm going to be able to, move my cursor around with the movement keys if I want to look at what everything is, but I don't really care, so I'm just going to hit enter to accept it. And it's going to do this, which is just going to take a sec. It's got to offload those units. Then it's going to take us back to the main menu. Don't panic, it always does this. It just means that we are going to have to now start playing instead of create a new world. So I've got an option to continue playing. You probably won't because I have a saved game and you probably don't. Or you may, I don't know. So start playing. We are going to choose the new region that I just created, Ashul Arkoth, region 3. And you have these three modes here. Dwarf Fortress is your main mode, where you're building settlement and trying to last as long as you can before you inevitably die. Adventure, kind of the same deal, except you have one dwarf and it's more of an adventure, roguelike, dungeon crawler type deal. And then Legends, this is how you can kind of peruse the archives on the history of your world. So pick Dwarf Fortress. Pretty straightforward so far, right? Alright, so here, let me just quickly explain what you're looking at. I'm not going to go through all the different view modes and stuff because, for most beginning players, this is all you're going to care about. So, what you have is a world map, which is the most zoomed out. You've got a region map, which is the next most zoomed in. And then you've got the local map, which is the most fine-tuned control. What you're doing right now is you're trying to choose a place to embark, which means that you are choosing where you're going to send your 7 dwarves and begin your settlement. Now, you don't want to embark just anywhere as a new player. You want to find a site that's got suitable features. So I'm not going to go into too much depth because, you know, if you've got the patience for it, I'll assume that you will know how to use the Dwarf Fortress wiki and figure out what sort of the pros and cons are. But I'll give you just kind of a quick start preset list of things to look for in a site if you want to have the best footing to start out with. So what you're going to do is you're going to go down here where it says find desired location, and you're going to use a built-in utility or tool rather that's built into the game. Toady1 cooked this up himself. This is not a standalone utility. So we're going to press F. Now we get to pick some kind of criteria here, and the game is going to go parse through all the possible embark zones and see whether it satisfies the criteria that we've specified. So what I want is a river, because running water is going to be a good source of power potentially later if I build a water wheel, but it'll also be you know, fresh water. I can do a lot of things with that. Aquifer you do not want. It's underground water. It could potentially flood your fortress. It's potentially bad times, especially for a new player that won't know how to deal with it. Fluxstone, yes, you want this. This is what you're going to use to make steel. Steel can only be produced with certain stone types in addition to iron ore that you're going to combine basically and make this alloy steel. So fluxstone is one of the components that you need to make it. So everything else, I'm not gonna worry about this stuff too much. Some of these things might be useful, but the more specific you get, the less possible sites it's going to find. Keep this in mind. So I'm going to press enter and do a search, and it's going to go through, and you can see here that it's going through. All the X's are sites that do not meet the qualifications that I've set here, and where we see green X's, we'll know that those are good matches. And so far it looks like it's found some up in this area. This is mostly glacier up here, it looks like, so this is probably going to be a cold zone. And it's going to just keep going for a bit. I'm going to pause the video while this runs. Okay, so I've got all these blinking green X's here. This is telling me that I've got some suitable sites. So let's take a look. We can press escape here to browse results. Don't press enter again because it's going to do the search again, and we don't want to do that. So when I'm moving around here, your center screen is where you're going to have the one-to-one movement. It's going to be confusing at first, but when I'm moving around, my cursor is this yellow X. So when I want to look at these green sites, this is where, you know, pressing on the numpad over to the right one time has the expected result. Obviously, because this is zoomed out, it's going to take more presses of the arrow to move over on the world map. So most of the stuff up here looks like it's going to be freezing. That's going to be bad because all the surface water is going to be frozen. So I'm going to go down south a little bit here and see if I can't find something a little more temperate. So what do we have here? We've got some sites that look like they might be good. So here we've got temperate. Don't want a site with no trees. Or rather I should say, to use correct grammar, I do not want a site that does not have any trees, because wood is important. It's going to be a source of barrels and beds and all kinds of things like that. So this looks actually like a good spot. Untamed wild, so there's going to be some beasts and things like that, but it's heavily forested, so there's going to be a lot of trees. It's temperate, which means that the groundwater is I believe this will mean that the groundwater will freeze only in the winter, but then it should be liquid the rest of the time, so that should be okay. There's a stream right here. There's clay, shallow metals, deep metals, fluxstone. This actually looks like a real good site. So we're just going to go ahead and press E for embark. So this is your only warning. Do you want to embark? Yep. Alright. So now I'm just going to assume that you have the Lazy Noob pack, and I'm just going to jump into this. But if you wanted to prepare for the journey carefully, I'll try to just quickly explain what you're going to have. It's kind of like Oregon Trail, where you have to choose occupation sort of for your dwarfs, is the easiest way to put it. And then you know, you've got a certain amount of points per dwarf, right? So if I want to make a dwarf a miner, I can allocate points into mining. If I want to make him a mason, I can allocate points into masonry. But I only have enough points per dwarf to, give them so much skill. I can't make all of my dwarves amazing at everything. Similarly, I can pick items to start out with. So I've got a certain point budget that I can use to start out with different animals and materials, tools, weapons, armor, whatever. Now, fortunately, with the Lazy Noob Pack, there's these presets put together, and one that I've been using lately is this DF VidToots 2012. So let's use this. Alright, so you're probably going to get this error, right? So there is no sand available, no yellow sand, rat meat, fish, cave lobster. So I probably want to go in and replace, I want to get some extra food to replace this stuff. The reason we got this message is because based on the civilization that your dwarves are from, that was created randomly during the world generation process, there may or may not be some resources which were available or unavailable to your dwarf civilization. So maybe, for instance, we didn't get yellow sand because wherever the mountain home that these dwarves originated from didn't have yellow sand. So I want to make up that deficit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Tab to go into the item screen. Going back here, this is the dwarves. This is where you would pick your skills, but we're going to go in items. So here I can see I've got 78 points to work with. I've got dogs and cats and kittens and rams and all kinds of stuff over here. So I'm going to just buy a couple extra things just to make this a little better here. So I'm going to first of all start out with some more booze. There's a trick where if you have it go just over a multiple of 10, you'll have kind of extra barrels for cheap, because I believe that it's 10 units to a barrel, if I remember correctly. So when you're buying things, if you go like 11 or 21, 31, whatever, that's usually a good bet. So I was actually a little short on some food. It looked like there's some cave lobster and some meat and stuff that I wasn't able to get. So maybe it wouldn't be a terrible idea to invest in some meat here. So here's some cow meat, sheep meat. So I'm going to add a couple of points of this stuff. Alright, so now I've got a little extra meat to start out with. Okay, so when you're good, you can even save this as your own preset if you find some combination of stuff that you think really works for you. So then we can embark, E. And again, I'm going to gloss over a lot of stuff, but this is just kind of a quick start guide for people who think that Dwarf Fortress is too hard. I'm going to attempt to prove you wrong. Alright, so here's the view that you're going to have when you start out with. This is not the best, most organized view, so what you can do is you can press Tab a couple of times to move your little hotkeys over here. So real quick, just to kind of familiarize you with the view and what you're looking at, this is a top-down view of the map, right? So here I'm looking at the surface. There are, what is this stuff down here? Let's just check this real quick. Oh, that's not good. Oh, this could be bad. There's actually like beast men, beast women right across this river. Hopefully they can't get across it actually, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, okay, so there's a river here, there's a little pond, you can see I'm looking straight down. So to change elevation, you have to use your pointy brackets. So above your right Alt key on your keyboard, if you're using a PC, you have pointy brackets that look like an alligator mouth. So doing the one that points to the right is going to make you go underground. You press hold shift and press that, and then doing the one that points to the left is going to take you above ground. So if I go another unit above ground, now I can see open space in the tops of trees and things, but I can't see my dwarves anymore. So I can go back down to ground level and I can see them. So let's take a little look around here. We've got kind of, looks like some mountains here, some sort of rolling hills. I can see this black area is just dirt that hasn't been dug into yet. So this is like the inside of the mountain over here. And the game is paused. It is real time, but you can pause it at any time with spacebar. So let's see. What is shrubs? Yeah, okay. To look around and see what something is, you can press K for look, and you can move around your cursor with the numpad and kind of see what stuff is here. And then, yeah. So first thing I probably want to do is show you how to dig. My first order of business is going to be to dig underground here. There's two ways I can do this. I can dig straight down into the ground if I was so inclined, which I might actually do, or I could dig horizontally into the mountain. So I'll show you how to do both of these real quick. So to do any kind of, okay, let me stop for a second. All the stuff over here, this can be a little intimidating, but for now, you could literally just put tape on your monitor and ignore like 90% of this stuff. The main ones that you're going to care about right now are B for building, D for designations, P for stockpiles. Almost all of this other stuff you can just ignore for the time being. Right now, just to get dug down underground and build a couple of things, I can do all of that with D, P, and B. Pretty simple. So it's it's not the most intuitive, but once you know this, you can just know that you can ignore all of this crap. So I'm going to just dig straight down in the ground. So what I'm going to do is D for designations, and then I need to build, not surprisingly, a downward stairway. Not too complicated. So I'm going to designate this with the mouse. There's one way to do it, just by clicking. Or I can remove the designation with X to illustrate another way to do it. You can define the corners, you can select an area by pressing enter once in the corner and then moving to where you want the other corner to be and pressing enter again. Oops, and I actually just had it on remove designation, so it didn't do what I wanted. So let's choose downward stairway and try that again. There. So now I've got some downward stairways selected. So I'm going to resume the game now and see what's going on with these thrips women. They're kind of scaring me a bit across the river. It looks like can they fly? That's kind of terrifying. I better check. So, otter men and women. Oh, this is going to be exciting. Maybe turning the whatever the word is, wild animal frequency up was not a good idea. But let's see here. You can view this creature. Head and wings of a thrips. I don't even know what that is. But I'm gonna zoom to it. Oh my god, they fly. Alright, that's scary. Okay. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now I gotta find my dwarves again. There they are. Okay. So, it looks like they've already gone and dug it out. Now, I can go down a level and I can see, basically, try to envision this. What I've just done is I have dug down to I've dug down like the height of a dwarf, so let's say 5 feet, right? Every Z level is about a 5 foot, 3 to 5 foot cube. So what I've done is I've dug down by 3 to 5 feet and exposed the top of the next layer, right? So here, my people can walk down these down stairways, but they're only going to be standing about 3 to 5 feet in the ground. If I want to go down deeper, I've got to build another staircase down here. I've got multiple options here. I can build just an upward stairway, so that will connect with the downward stairway, or I can build an up-down stairway, which is like a spiral staircase that will connect to the top one. So I'm just going to build an upward stairway for now, but I'm going to resume the game, and then my miners are going to come down here and dig it out. Alright, so far I've only used a couple of hotkeys. D, J for a downward stairway, and remove designation to remove that stairway upstairs, and then upward stairway, right? So digging only involved a couple of hotkeys, so it wasn't really that bad. You just have to know what to do. So now, okay, good. So I've got a little opening down here, so what can I do with this? I'm going to just go ahead and dig out some stuff underground so that I can show you the next thing you need to know, which is stockpiles. Stockpiles are basically designated areas where your dwarves are going to store or stockpile various types of items. So to dig this out, I've got to use D again for designations, and I'm going to mine. It's not actually dig, it's just mine. So I'm going to specify with the mouse here the area that I want to dig out. I'm going to just dig out a little tunnel, and then I'm going to use that corner selection technique that I was telling you about before to dig out kind of a squarish area here so that I have some room to work with. Alright, so these guys are going to do that. In the meantime, while they're digging that out, I can show you another thing that you can and will want to do with your designations key. So with designations, I can also designate trees to be chopped down, which is useful because wood is very important building material for a lot of the stuff that you're going to need at the beginning of your fortress. So I can just click on trees that I want to chop down by pressing D for designations and then T for chop down trees. And just click on these ones here, and you'll know that they're designated because they change color like this. I'll just choose a few of them, and then I'll resume the game, and my woodcutter guy is going to come up here and start chopping things down. So now let's go back down underground with the pointy bracket and see how it's going. Alright, they're digging in here, and let's press K for a second just to see what this is. So it's sand. Loamy sand is kind of a silty sand, and that is what they're digging into right now. Eventually, when I dig down deeper, I'm going to run into different kinds of stones and metals and gems and things like that that I can make stuff with. So if you ever played Minecraft or Terraria or whatever, you know, and you're looking for something a little bit more complex, you have found something a lot more complex. So welcome. But the basic principles are the same. You cut things down, you make things with those things, and then you use those things to make better things, and so on and so forth. And there's blood in the water. What just happened? The dog is fighting a sea lamprey. Uh-oh. Wow, the sea lamprey. My dog bit the sea lamprey, and then the sea lamprey slapped the dog in the head so hard that it jammed the skull into the brain, and now my dog is unconscious. Well, that's interesting. Probably underwater, too. Let's take a look real quick here. Oh, it's dead. Yep. Acorn flies. Wow. There's flies on it underwater like the second after it died. Yeah, maybe this maybe this embark zone wasn't as idyllic as I had hoped. Anyway, that's just an example of the many ways you can have fun in Dwarf Fortress. I wasn't even ready for the fun yet, but the fun was ready for me. So, just go down here real quick and see. I'm going to wrap this first episode up pretty soon. I'm just going to demonstrate how to do two more things, and that is going to be building a workshop and then using that workshop to build something else. So first thing I'm going to do, alright, if you had to guess which key I pressed to build something, what would you say? I would probably guess B for building. Now, almost all of the workshops and things that you are going to produce are going to have a submenu that's under workshops. So B for build, W for workshops, and then here's all the stuff that I can build that's classified as a workshop. So carpenter's workshop is the first thing I want to build. So C. So B, W, C. That's build, workshop, carpenter. And now I've got this selection here. This is just like if you played a real-time strategy game when you choose a building to build. Oh god, there's sea otter men up here. Oh my god. Alright, then, you know, you're going to choose where you're going to place your building. Now I'm going to press enter to place it. Again, these tooltips are very convenient. And I'm going to choose a material that it gets made out of. For now, I'll just use whatever's most abundant. So I have the most tower cap logs, so I'll use one of those. Now, theoretically, somebody who has the labor enabled, will come down here and build me a carpenter's workshop. And Shazam, I now have a carpenter's workshop. Alright, so far you've made it, about 30 minutes with only using hotkeys starting with B and D. I got to introduce one more real quick to show you how to make something. It's how you're going to build something, but you're going to build it a special way. You're going to build it with a building. So for things like that, you've got to use a new one. That is going to be Q for set building tasks and preferences. So you're going to press Q. You're going to use your little cursor with your numpad, and you're going to come over here until your carpenter's workshop starts blinking, and you'll see over here what you can do with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new task. I want to build some beds. So I'm going to press A for add new task, and then using plus and minus, right here you see plus, minus, and then asterisk, forward slash. Just plus minus is all you need for now. I'm going to come down and choose bed. So I'm going to make a couple of them. I'll make 4 beds. Oh, I better show you stockpiles too, as long as I'm here. Okay, so now my carpenter is going to come down here and start building beds. Well, I don't want the beds to just stay here in the workshop. I want them to go into a stockpile. So this is going to be the last thing I show you before the video is over. How to make a stockpile. Stockpile is P. And what you are going to do is make a furniture storage stockpile, because that is a stockpile that stores furniture, as you might guess. And now I've just designated it with that corner selection method. And when I resume, in theory, when these beds get finished, well, these guys are going to come bring anything that was classified as furniture that was outside. They're going to come bring it onto this stockpile too. So this stockpile is actually kind of small. So how can I make it bigger? Real quick, press P again for stockpile. Right here, remove designation, X, and then I'm going to select corners. I'm going to remove this stockpile, and then I'm going to immediately replace it with a bigger one. So again, U, I'm going to switch it to furniture storage, and then I'm going to select the corner, and then I'm going to come over here like this and make it a bigger stockpile. And resume. There's my bed, right there. Look at that craftsdwarfsmanship, whatever. Alright, coming right up on 30 minutes here, so this is going to be the end of the first Dwarf Fortress 2012 tutorial. Hopefully this is all making sense so far. It's really not too complicated right off the bat. It will get more complicated later, but just to start messing around with it, to get your foot in the door, it's not too bad. We didn't use that many separate hotkeys, and again, most of the stuff that you're going to do in the first 10-20 minutes is going to be only using hotkeys under these menus: building, stockpiles, designations, and then this one, set building tasks and preferences. All this other stuff, don't even worry about it for now. Just apply whiteout to your screen, pretend they don't exist. Don't really do that, that would be silly. Alright, that's it for now, and I will have the next one out before too long.